Hey guys, it's ERBOI, and I'm finally going to get to all the mods that I promised you guys that I was going to do. And as you can tell by the title of this video, I'm going to be doing the valve cover gasket, and an oil catch can. However, since I've had a sudden spurt of income and productivity, I'm actually going to finally get all the stickers that I ordered and put them on this hood to see if I'm going to need to buy more. So for anyone else out there planning on doing a sticker bomb hood, this is what about 500 is going to look like on the hood initially. So now, let's see if it's enough to actually cover it. Okay guys, so for now I'm just gonna have to assume that they fit, because being an idiot, I forgot that the wind exists, and basically for another project that we're gonna do, we're gonna have to bring this thing inside, so might as well take that wind-free opportunity to actually see if these are enough stickers. But I'm just going to assume that they are. But I think that now that I've greatly increased my chance of getting a heart attack before I turn 30, we should actually pop the hood and get on to what we're here for. Now, just in case if any of you guys aren't up to date from my last repair video, or haven't seen my intro, I obviously burn oil. Now, the culprit for that involves this hose right here that goes to the intake manifold and to the back of the valve cover. That is what's called the PCV valve, and when it doesn't properly function like mine does, that puts oil into the intake manifold that the engine then burns and exhausts. So in order to help the problem of oil burning, I'm going to put in a catch can and also put in an entirely new valve cover, since this one is seeping at the gasket, and Nissan, being as smart as they are, decided to make the valve cover out of plastic and replace with the gasket. So hopefully this repair should be quick, easy, and a little bit of fun. Now the first thing we're actually going to work on will be the catch can, because we are going to make our own custom bracket out of flat aluminum, because the stock ones it comes with, since it's a cheap eBay thing, are pretty bad. So using the impact, I'm going to unscrew that big bolt right there, which just holds in a brake booster, and we're going to put our own bracket underneath that bolt, so that way we can put my catch can in that general area underneath the intake and still have it where I can adjust it to where I want it to be. Now a little while later, and thanks to my dad and his milling machine, we have made this nice little custom bracket that we can mount the catch can on and use this exact same bolt from on top of the motor mount. And all that bolt does is it just holds down a brake line and a wiring harness, but now we can mount my catch can without having to drill anything. So now that this is all ready, it can be the last thing that we put on once we hook up all the lines. Now obviously, if I want to remove this old valve cover, I'm going to have to take everything off of it, including this hose for the intake, PCV hose, all of the coil packs, and of course all the bolts in the perimeter of it. So let's get to disassembly. Now I just gotta pull these bad boys out and check for oil on the end, because that's a way to tell if your ring seals are going bad. Or rather, tube seals, what am I saying? This is tricky. It's the constant tension clamp on that PCV hose in the back, but that's why I've got these good old vice grips. Ew, this is what was on my PCV hose, guys. Now you can understand why I'm putting in a catch can. And now finally, we can get to these perimeter bolts. And now that everything's disconnected, the old valve cover should come off. And if it doesn't, just whatever you do, do not use a screwdriver to pry it, because the QR25 is an aluminum block engine, and you have a potential chance of scratching your block, and I do not advise that. So just be patient, keep pulling on it, and if you have to use something to wedge in between there or to separate the surfaces, something plastic that's soft and won't scratch the aluminum would be optimal. Now, in case if you are doing this repair at home, it is alright if you do use a flathead screwdriver, just as long as you make sure that you're using the body of the screwdriver to pry up the valve cover gasket and not the blade of it, because if the blade of it scratches the block, that's not good. But as you can see here, I've stuck it all the way through that hole where the blade is on the other side. So that way if I pry up, no scratches are made on the block, and I can get this corner up. Now, the side by the timing chains will be more difficult since the factory service manual says that you have to use RTV in that corner because it gets really twisty. But just stay patient at it, get each corner up progressively until you have the entire valve cover up, like I almost have. So now with that old PCV hose slightly ripped and definitely unplugged, we could take a look at that beautiful Doach design. Come on. Come on, I had a punchline before this. Come on, don't get stuck now. Don't get stuck, cooperate with me. That beautiful Doach design. Now, even though those dual overhead cams in perfect condition do look really cool, anyone will tell you that at this step the last thing you want to do is go slowly. Now, yes, you don't want to take things too quickly to mess things up. However, you don't want to get any dirt in your oil or get any other particulates in there. So just make sure to clean off any of the old gasket residue and use a paper towel to take off any of the oil on the gasket mating surface. Don't forget that in that corner over there by the timing chain cover, you do have to use some RTV, preferably black RTV. Now, with my limited knowledge of mating surfaces, one would assume that you put red wine and candlesticks on this area in order to make it proper for the surfaces to mate, but as a matter of fact, all you need to do is just clean that perimeter area that the valve cover sits on. So using the plastic knife and a couple shop towels, I was able to do that where it's now sparkly clean, so that way this sort of mating can occur. Now, as you can see in this hand, I have a tube of black RTV, and in order to make sure that this gasket seals properly, you just do one line along there, and you do another line along the backside right there. Now, unfortunately, I can't get the tip unstuck for this RTV, but what I'm going to use is I'm just going to, essentially like toothpaste, just spray it onto this plastic knife right here, and use that to carefully make a small line that I will use to seal the valve cover gasket. Now, I don't think I'll need to show that because it's pretty self-explanatory how you just put the gasket on by just vertically setting it down, so hopefully you guys at home know exactly what I'm talking about. So now with these two corners over here RTV'd and nice and flush, all you have to do is put in all the bolts and torque them down to 8 pound-feet each. I've already done all of them, and yes, it is correct, 8 pound-feet. It sounds like it's a very small amount of torque, but trust me, the gasket self-seals when it gets some heat. So now all you have to do is put all the coil packs back in, put your oil cap back in, reattach the breather hose for the intake, and after that, for the PCV, I'm going to show you what we have going on there. Alright guys, so now that everything is just about together, I think we can really say that the look of the car is really shaping up. Because there was one person in the comments section, in particular, the last time I showed this valve cover, that did diss me on my paint job. And while I will say it's not perfect, now that it's actually on the car, I think it looks pretty freaking sweet. Just look at how bright it looks on the camera, my god. Alright guys, so now that just about everything is hooked back up, we just have to put this hose on the PCV valve back there. So now, after quite a bit of time, as you can see back there, I hooked up the first hose to the PCV valve, and also I put a screw-type hose clamp on there, so that way not only is it easy to get off later on, but also it's really tight on there, so the pressure from the valve cover will not blow that off when it's at redline. So now, if you remembered that hole from over there earlier, we'll just bolt the catch can in by putting that hole on top of everything over there, and then screw it down. And then we'll be ready to hook up the rest of the hoses. It's kind of a tight fit, but hey, it works and it looks really nice, even though that red completely does not match the valve cover. And now guys, as you can see, every hose is hooked up, and that's what my engine bay looks like now. Now I will say that I'm a bit disappointed that that red doesn't exactly match that red. However, overall, I really like the way it looks, and what's also good is that now I won't get any more oil burning or any more oil leakage out the side of the valve cover. And also a big shout out to my dad for having a milling machine and for helping me make that bracket over there, because if he didn't help me, then we'd be here a lot longer. And of course, if you're wondering what if the PCV system wasn't working with my old valve cover, I'm about to show you. See, this is the factory hose, and as you can see, when I took the valve cover off, it literally ripped apart. This is obviously straight from 2002, so it's easy to expect that it won't sustain the test of time with it being a fragile rubber. And it goes the same for the gasket on the stock valve cover as well. Because even though this engine is from an 04 actually, it still means that it's a really old system, and it's about time that it was replaced with something a lot better. Now guys, that ought to do it for this video. So as always, thanks for watching, and peace out.